One of the most influential pieces of work or videos that I made in my life is undoubtedly Aikido versus MMA. It's a video which went viral. It has, at the moment of filming this video, more than 3.2 million views. It's funny because that's more than the population of my country, Lithuania. And it probably had the greatest influence on various individuals who are following the subject of martial arts, especially traditional martial arts and their effectiveness. So there's a lot of layers there. And often enough, when I'm asked to be a guest in podcasts, I'm pretty much always asked, so tell me about, how did Aikido versus MMA came about? What's the story behind it? And so I told that story a number of times as a guest, but I realized I probably never really sat down with my own audience and went through what really happened there. So I decided, why not? Let's do this. I'll tell you how the video really came about, what was happening in my head at the moment, and everything related to it. So at the moment, as some of you may know, I was running a professional Aikido school. I was training for about 13 years Aikido. It was like 3 years or 4 years of me running my Aikido school. And I was, at the time, I was becoming one of the best known Aikido guys on YouTube. It was a funny way it happened because I was suggested by my partner at the day to just film a tutorial, an Aikido tutorial, and I did it, and I thought, that was kind of fun. What else can I do? Like, how could I push this? And I filmed another one, and then another one, and then eventually I started kind of becoming interested to film Aikido tutorials, and it became a thing. I kept pushing the threshold. Some of my Aikido tutorials went viral, and so I was kind of doing a good thing. I consider that probably at the day my YouTube channel, which was mostly Aikido-based, Aikido tutorials, it was probably the third biggest Aikido-based YouTube channel in the world, from what I gathered. And it had 20,000 subscribers or something like that. It was still beginning, but I felt proud of that achievement. Aikido is kind of a niche thing. And but there was one thing which kept bugging me, and that was when I was recording videos. When I was recording the Aikido tutorials and publishing them, some of them were really liked by the Aikido community, but as soon as, especially the technical videos, as soon as I shared them, some people appreciated them, especially beginners, but more advanced people were like, oh, you're doing it wrong, your foot should be like this, and it's like that, and this angle is wrong, and that's such a common thing in Aikido, when people are just complaining about what you are doing and telling you you're doing it wrong, and each style thinking it's the best, and each style thinking it has the right answer, the other one has the wrong answer, and I have my whole ideas on why that happens. But the fact was that it was happening. But what was happening in my head at the day, I was already coming to understand that Aikido is not effective at self-defense or fighting. A friend of mine who was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and he introduced me to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he helped me see that. And so I became more and more aware that Aikido is not a means of self-defense or fighting, although I was meant to believe that it is the case by my Aikido instructor, but I kind of figured it out on my own that it's not. And I became quite honest with my students. I would tell them that. But when things got very technical on YouTube and I got those criticisms about my techniques, I got so frustrated because I would tell those people, look, Aikido doesn't work anyway. Why are you concerned about which angle is the right angle? It's not going to work in fighting one way or another. And they wouldn't get me. They would be furious, and they would tell me no, Aikido works against fighters. Some of the people believe that Aikido works in an MMA cage, against an MMA fighter, against a boxer. There were so many beliefs, but there weren't really videos, YouTube videos, showing that. And I was so certain that, they're wrong. Aikido would not work against them. I already had the disillusionment experience of doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with my friend who was a blue belt at the day, and he was destroying me. There was nothing I could do to him. No Aikido worked. And obviously Jiu-Jitsu is a very specific game. It's on the ground. It's very different from most martial arts. but still, like, nothing worked. Even like stand up, I could only like release grips at best, but no wrist locks, throws, nothing worked, and that helped me realize, okay, if it doesn't work against BJJ, what's the chance it's going to work against MMA? I realized it's not going to work. So I got really frustrated, and at the same day as I was growing my YouTube channel, I did investigations. I was looking around, so what video can I make which people will be interested in? And I saw that one of the most searched for keywords at the day was Aikido versus MMA. And I looked what's out there for that question, and there was nothing, nada. There were no videos, no good videos showing Aikido trying itself out against an MMA guy. And so those 2 points connected it with me, because I thought, I can do that. I'm sick of Aikido people telling me that my techniques wouldn't work, because their techniques wouldn't work either. Let's put a final line and prove to the world that Aikido doesn't work in a cage. Let's focus on Aikido as a martial art for like a spiritual practice, like a self-development practice. And let's ditch the idea that it's capable of fighting whatsoever. And I thought this video will, prove the point. So the next thing that happened was a funny one, because I went on on the quest to find an MMA fighter which would help me out to prove that. And it was really intimidating, because at the day I was still believing that MMA fighters are brutes. And I thought that they'll, beat me to a pulp, and they will, if I will ask them to show that my Aikido doesn't work, they will knock out their teeth in the process. So I wanted to make sure that I get a person who is intelligent and nice and will not destroy me entirely. And at the day, my partner, she was teaching yoga at an MMA gym, so she knew some MMA guys, and I said, is there anyone who's like kind of nice? Could you connect me with them? And she said, oh, there's actually one guy who's actually very nice, and he trains MMA. So I was like, yeah, connect me up with that guy. And it was still intimidating. I was still a bit scared to do that, because I didn't know, how it will all go. But I remember I called him up and I said, look, I'm an Aikido guy, and you probably know already that Aikido isn't that good in the cage. But I want to put it on record. I want to film a video where I try my Aikido against you and it will not work. And he just couldn't get it. He's like, what do you mean? Like, why would you want to do that? I'm like, well, I think, it's important. And I try to argument it to him, and he just couldn't get it. And I said, look, after like a 20-minute talk on the phone, I said, I know I'm a convincing person and I can be convincing. And I said, let's meet up for a coffee and talk about it live. I'll convince you. And so we meet up, and it took me like 2 hours of convincing him. I was like he's just like, he couldn't get it. He's like, look, man, you have a school, it's not going to raise your reputation, and it's like, why would you want to do that? You can get hurt. And I was like, no, man, trust me, I really need to do this. And I think until the very end, until we released the Aikido versus MMA video, he just couldn't understand why the heck would I do this. But he saw my passion, I think, and he just kind of said, okay, I'll do it. He's like, I don't really want to do it, but I'll do it because you're so convincing. I was even offering money to him. I was like, I'm gonna pay you, let's just do this. And he didn't take the money. He's a really nice guy. And then we went on to do this, and I remember at that day, at the day of the filming, I was quite stressed, and I was telling my ex-wife, I was telling her, I'm ready. I'm ready to lose a tooth or have a blue eye. It's like I accept that that's the price of this video. So I was really convinced that that's probably going to happen. But I still went on to do it, and I did my best to film the intro and do the whole thing, and then we stepped into the ring, and we had the sparring, and you probably saw the video. What happened. It was terrible. I couldn't do anything, and I knew already that I will fail, but it was even worse than I thought. Nothing at all worked, and it opened my eyes even more, that video. But many people ask me in retrospect, they're like, how did you have the guts to publish that video? How did you have the balls to do it? And I thought a lot about that. Again, it's a common question I get. And my answer is, and it was true at the day as well. Truth was way more important for me than my personal beliefs. Check. Truth was way more important for me than my personal well-being. I was ready in my mind. I was ready to sacrifice my students, to sacrifice my Aikido school. I recognized in the back of my mind that this may damage my reputation. This may damage my membership attendance. And at the moment, I thought that Aikido people will definitely hate me. And I also thought MMA people will make fun of me, like combat sports people. So I thought everyone is going to hate me, but I couldn't hold myself from doing it. The truth, to present the truth, and what I thought will put a complete end at that debate of whether Aikido works against an MMA fighter or not, it'll be finished. And so I was ready to face really negative outcomes, but I thought, I cannot tell a lie. I have to put this out. So I recorded it. I edited the video as best as I can, and I put it out there. And I had no clue what's going to happen. I thought it was going to do okay. I thought people will be interested to see the video, but I didn't expect it to go viral. But what I did not expect even more was to get so much positive feedback from the MMA world. That's what started to open up my eyes. And obviously some of the guys were also like, you're a loser, But that was a minority. So many people and highly respected people were really showing their support and showing their respect toward me. And I was like, I couldn't believe it. Because at the day, again, I thought that MMA people are, they're brutes, they're violent, they're aggressive. And I was like, holy crap, I was wrong. And I started to realize that they're more capable of, understanding what's what. And I started to understand that their hatred toward Aikido, commonly shown, is not, there's something else to it. It's not just that they hate it. And I continued to explore that subject too. And I found my answers. But at the day, again, I was surprised. And yes, a lot of Aikido people didn't like the video. And it was really interesting too, because as I said, my Aikido channel was one of the top Aikido channels in the world at the day. And I started receiving invitations to teach international seminars. I taught one in Germany, I had an invitation in France, and I saw more of those popping up. But then the France one, after I released the Aikido versus MMA video, and a couple of weeks later, that got canceled. They didn't want me to come over anymore, and they didn't say why, but I think the reason was clear. And all the invitations, all the conversations about my Aikido started to shut down. And that's when I started to become a disliked figure in the Aikido world, and that definitely stopped my, Aikido fame. I could have went on the path of becoming big in, the Aikido world and like a superstar Aikido teaching seminars and this, not, and that, dropped entirely. And I don't have any regrets, because that would have been based a lot on a lie. But it was interesting to observe that, that completely got knocked out. But then I discovered something else. First of all, I discovered a very different outlook and mentality in the MMA world, which intrigued me. I was like, so why are most Aikido people incapable of seeing what I presented, while the MMA people can? And then I started learning that more people are going through the same as I do, and more people have already went through that, but nobody just documented it for clear reasons. I don't think we're going to see an Aikido versus MMA type of video anytime soon. It's a big sacrifice that people have to go through, and not very few people are willing to do that. And I realized, that's part of the success of that video. Now I realize that. I didn't expect that then. But yeah, and that got me on the whole journey of questioning. So why is there such a divide? And if I'm not the only one going through that, then there must be something else. And I went on into investigating that, what eventually became the martial arts journey. The last thing which was interesting to notice and to observe was that a lot of Aikido people still did not get it. I expected that this will be the end of all debates. This will be the video where, because I did Aikido for more than a decade, I was a professional instructor, I learned in so many places, I thought, this is a clear example unique case showing that Aikido doesn't work, period. But I got still so many haters which were telling me, no, this is your Aikido that doesn't work, you failed, your Aikido is bad and ours is good and this doesn't prove anything. And I was shocked. But that also led me to ask, okay, is it really me or is it them? Which, you know, it turns out it's them for years of investigation. But also I was shocked that that's not enough. And I was like, you know, so what will be enough? You know, what do I need to show to you? What video do I need to make to prove to you that there's a big misunderstanding in Aikido, that it's not what it's presented to be in many cases? And what I am kind of, you can say, proud of is that after I filmed and released the Aikido versus MMA video, now, beforehand, there were still debates and there were still arguments online where people would say, oh, Aikido is too deadly for MMA. That was like a common thing. Like when people would ask, so why is Aikido not in MMA? And a lot of Aikido people would say, it's too deadly. You know, we don't follow rules, we don't train with rules. And that argument, I think, got knocked out of the window as well. I did not hear that argument after I released that video anymore. I think it's just kind of historically, it was debunked and it became, you know, it disappeared, which is really cool kind of when you look back at it. But there were so many other misunderstandings which led me on this beautiful journey, which led me to this moment. So yeah, that's kind of how the real Aikido versus MMA story went through. It's kind of what went through my head. That's kind of how it evolved, and you know the rest because you follow the channel, I guess. So I hope this brings more insight into the real story behind Aikido versus MMA. It gives you a better sense of what was really happening, and so now maybe I won't need to repeat the story in interviews when I'm going to guest in a podcast. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about this whole story in the comments, and I'll see you on the virtual mat again soon.